Hello, friends. You're watching The Night Watchman, where every day you'll hear a brand new horror story that will send chills down your spine. But to keep bringing you these terrifying tales, we need your love and support. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Now let's begin the story. I never thought I'd end up working at a fast food place again, especially not at 26. But bills didn't care about pride, and neither did the eviction notice taped to my apartment door in Ridgeview, Ohio. I'd lost my warehouse job back in March. Budget cuts. And for weeks, I'd been living off canned soup. And the last few hundred, my dad left me before he passed away. My mom lived 2 states over and kept telling me to stay strong, but strength didn't pay rent. One muggy Thursday afternoon, after filling out what felt like my 100th online application, I saw a help wanted sign at the Burger King on Maple Ridge Road. I stood there in the baking heat for a moment, staring at the faded sign above the roof. Something about the place felt tired, like a building that inhaled too much grease and couldn't breathe properly anymore. But desperation has a way of numbing the senses. I walked in. The dining room was almost empty. One teen wiping tables, a couple of elderly men nursing coffees, and behind the counter, a woman barking out orders. A guy in his late 30s came out from the back, wearing a wrinkled Burger King polo tucked too tightly into khaki pants. His name tag read, Sullivan, assistant manager. "You here for the posting?" he asked. "Yes, Clint. Clint Parker." He didn't shake my hand, didn't smile, just motioned for me to follow him to a corner booth. His eyes were small, glassy, like he hadn't slept enough or had slept too much. "You worked food before?" he asked, flipping through a clipboard. "When I was 16, I said, "and I worked warehouse the last few years." He nodded once. "Doesn't matter. We just need bodies who listen. The general manager doesn't like issues." He paused, looked around carefully. "He doesn't like being disturbed." The way he said disturbed made my stomach twist. "I won't disturb anyone," I said, trying to lighten the mood. Sullivan didn't laugh. Instead, he leaned forward. "Good. He works nights. You won't see him. Ever. Just follow protocol, close properly, and don't go near his office. Understood?" I blinked. "Yeah, sure." He slid a paper toward me. "You start tomorrow. Night shifts." I should have walked out right then. But rent was due in 4 days, and I needed the job. The night crew ended up being small but decent. Maria, mid-40s, ran drive-through, always humming old Spanish songs. Theo, 19, lanky, always nervous, always tapping his foot. Jess, who usually closed with me, quiet, thoughtful, wore chipped green nail polish and kept her curly hair in a loose bun. She'd been there 3 months. Jess was the one who warned me first. "The GM's office?" she whispered that first night, pointing toward the long hallway near the walk-in freezer. "Just don't look at the door. Don't listen at it. Don't knock." "I wasn't planning to," I said. She forced a half smile. "You think that now?" That same hour, while loading buns into the warmer, I saw Sullivan standing at that office door, his hand pressed against it like he was listening. You know that feeling when someone looks wrong from far away? Like their posture isn't how a body should bend? That's how Sullivan looked. Back slightly curved, ear pressed too close to the metal. When he noticed me staring, he straightened abruptly. "Keep moving, Clint," he snapped. "We close in 2 hours." I nodded, pretending I hadn't seen a thing. My third night, something happened that stuck with me. We were closing up. Maria had already left. Theo was mopping the lobby. Jess was wiping down the ice cream machine. The usual late-night silence filled the building, the kind that makes every refrigerator hum sound like a whisper. That's when the lights in the hallway flickered. Not the main dining lights, not the kitchen lights, just the hallway leading to the GM's office. Jess froze, her cloth dropping from her hand. "Don't look," she said immediately. "What do you mean, don't look?" I whispered. "Just keep working." But curiosity is stubborn. My eyes slid toward the hallway anyway. For a split second, I saw a faint glow under the GM's office door. A slow, pulsing yellow light, almost like candlelight. Then a sound, scraping, slow, dragging, like something heavy being pulled across the cheap tile. "Jess?" I whispered. She shook her head violently. "No, we didn't hear anything. We didn't see anything." Her voice trembled so badly it didn't sound like her. Theo poked his head in from the lobby. Did you guys hear? Jess cut him off. No, finish mopping. What kind of job had I walked into? The next night on break, I sat outside with Theo. You're new, he said quietly. You'll hear things soon. Like what? He leaned closer. 3 people went missing last year. Tim, a closing cook. Ava, who worked front counter. And some high school kid, I think his name was Daniel. All worked nights. All disappeared after their shift. No police involved. No investigation. Just quietly removed from the roster. You're joking. He shook his head. I wish. And Sullivan? He never meets the GM either. Theo swallowed. No one meets him. So how do you know he's real? Theo stared at the dark windows. Because at night, he moves around. I frowned. You've seen him? Theo's voice dropped. I saw something. Before he could explain, the back door opened and Sullivan stepped out, tightening his gloves. Break's over, he said. GM likes a clean workspace. A chill crawled up my spine. GM likes. Did Sullivan talk to him or talk for him? That Saturday night was the turning point. We were short-staffed. Only me, Jess, and Sullivan closing. Around 1:40 a.m., Jess nudged me toward the security monitor mounted above the office desk in the front. Look, she whispered. Camera 4, the hallway was frozen. A still frame. The GM office door slightly open. A dark hand on the edge of the frame. That door was shut, Jess said. Maybe it's old footage? She shook her head. I checked earlier. This is live. The still frame suddenly jumped. A tall figure stepped out from the office. Its uniform darker than ours, almost black, like shadow fabric. Its head tilted unnaturally to the left, neck bent at an angle no neck should bend. It dragged a heavy black trash bag behind it, leaving streaks like something wet was leaking out. Jess gasped loudly. Oh my God! The screen fuzzed. Static. White. Crackling. When the feed returned, the hallway was empty. The bag gone. The door closed. Something in me pulled tight. Like a string holding my sanity snapped a little. 2 days after the camera incident, the restaurant reeked. Not like old fryer oil. Not like rotting lettuce. This smell was metallic, warm, almost sweet. Like blood left out in summer heat. Something died in the dumpster, I told Jess. No, she said softly. It's coming from the hallway. I walked back there slowly. The closer I got, the stronger the smell became. It seeped from under the GM office door like steam. Sullivan was already standing there, sniffing. Actually sniffing. Sir? I said. He jolted like I'd shocked him. Yes, plumbing issue. Handled. It doesn't smell like plumbing. His eyes narrowed. You don't question me. Understand? I nodded quickly. But in my gut, I knew the truth. Something was inside that office. Something that shouldn't be. The next night, Jess didn't show up. No text, no call. Her phone went straight to voicemail. You think she quit? I asked Sullivan. She moved on, he said coldly. Replacement coming next week. Moved on. Those words sounded rehearsed. When I went to the break room, Jess's jacket was still hanging on the hook. Her name tag on the table. Her water bottle on the counter. People don't move on without taking their things, unless they never got the chance. A week later, right as we were finishing closing duties, Sullivan approached me. The GM wants to see you, he said. My whole body froze. Why? Routine check-in. His lips stretched into an unnatural smile. He likes promising workers. He handed me a key card. Knock before entering. And remember, don't look scared. He hates that. I could barely breathe as I walked toward that hallway. The air was humid, thick, like the AC didn't reach here anymore. The door loomed ahead, plain metal, scratched, stained near the bottom like someone had kicked it or clawed at it. My hand trembled as I knocked. 1 tap, 2, 3. A soft buzz. The lock clicked open. The room was pitch black, except for a faint red glow from the computer monitor. I stepped inside. Hello, I whispered. The smell hit me instantly. Rot, iron, wet meat. The monitor flickered. Security footage rolled across the screen. Kitchen, lobby, parking lot. Then the feed switched. It showed the GM office, the exact room I was standing in, only behind me. Something moved. I spun around and saw, not a person, not exactly. Tall, face obscured in shadow, uniform too dark, head bent to the side like the neck was broken, long fingers scraping against the wall as it moved closer. And behind it, another shape, Sullivan, smiling. "You weren't supposed to see that," he whispered. "What the hell is going on?" I shouted. "He likes loyalty," Sullivan said. "He likes workers who stay late." The door slammed behind me. Darkness swallowed everything. A wet hand brushed my neck. A voice, not quite human, whispered right beside my ear, "Stay." I don't remember what happened next. I woke up behind the dumpsters, shirt soaked in grease and something thicker, almost like blood. My badge was gone. My phone screen shattered, my head pounding. I staggered to the front of the building, boarded, windows covered, a sign reading, "Temporarily closed for renovation." It had been one night. One night. No one saw Sullivan again. No one saw Jess. Theo disappeared the following week from his apartment. And the Burger King? Still closed. But sometimes, late at night, when I'm driving down Maple Ridge Road, I see the faint flicker of lights inside, like someone walking behind the counter. And sometimes, God help me, I swear I smell it again. That metallic sweetness. Like he's waiting for the next shift. Story 2. I never imagined a fast food job would change the way I look at people forever. But even now at 28, when I pass the Burger King on Lakewood Boulevard in Tacoma, Washington, something cold crawls up my spine. My hands tighten on the steering wheel. My jaw locks. And a part of me, a part I wish I could forget, wakes up again. Back then, I was just a scared, confused 18-year-old kid trying to figure out what my life was supposed to look like. Growing up, my parents weren't the warm type. They cared, yes, but they cared in the practical ways. Food, school, money, not hugs or conversations. I became the quiet kid, the one who never raised her hand, the one who apologized for existing. So when I graduated high school, I didn't go off to college like everyone else. I stayed home, enrolled in community college, and got a job at Burger King to save money. Night shifts paid a little more, and I liked the quiet. The grill hissed, the soda machine buzzed, the fryers popped, and for the first time in my life, the noise didn't come with expectations. It was just work, simple, safe. At least that's what I thought. It was early June, the kind of humid Washington night where the air sticks to your skin. I was restocking ketchup packets near the front counter when the door chimed and a man walked in. He looked around 25, tall, pale, sandy brown hair that fell slightly over his eyes. He wore a dark gray hoodie despite the heat and carried a backpack slung over one shoulder. Something about the way he moved, slow, deliberate, made me glance twice. "Evening," I said, forcing a smile. He smiled back, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Hey there," he said softly. "You guys still serving?" "Yep, until midnight." He ordered a Whopper meal, nothing unusual, but the whole time his eyes stayed on me. Not in a flirty way, not in a friendly way. More like he was studying something he already owned. When I handed him his cup, our fingers brushed for a second. His skin was ice cold. "You work nights a lot?" he asked casually. "Most of the time," I said, not thinking much of it. He nodded as if that was information he needed. "I'll see you around then." I told myself he was just being friendly. Customers talked. People asked questions. Nothing weird. But I felt his eyes on me the entire time he sat there eating. And when he left, he looked back once, like he wasn't done. His name, as written on one of his receipts, was Evan. After that night, he started coming in regularly. Some weeks, every night. And every time he sat in the same booth, the one near the window facing the parking lot, where he had a perfect view of both the counter and my station. He watched me. Not constantly, just enough for me to notice. "Maybe he likes you," my coworker Mia teased once. But her grin faded when she saw my face. "Hey, you good?" "Yeah, he's just weird." We shrugged it off. Customers were weird all the time. But this one was different. He asked questions that felt too personal. You walk home? You got family around here? You ever feel unsafe at night? I started giving short answers. Sometimes I lied. One night he pointed to the stitch patch pinned on my backpack behind the counter. My mom gave it to me when I was 10, a tiny blue bird. That's cute, he said. I've seen that on you since the first night. He remembered details. Too many details. It was mid-July when everything broke open. A storm had rolled in fast. Loud thunder, heavy rain slapping the windows. My shift was almost over and the store was empty. Mia had left early with stomach pain, so it was just me and Mr. Larson, the general manager, in the back office finishing paperwork. At 11:47 p.m., the front door chimed. I turned, and my stomach dropped. Evan walked in, soaking wet, hood dripping water down his sleeves. He wasn't smiling. Cold night, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. He didn't answer. He just stood there looking around, then slowly walked toward the counter. You alone tonight? He asked quietly. No, I lied. Manager's in the back. His jaw tightened. I tried to ring up his usual order, but he placed his hand flat on the counter. I'm not here for food. My throat tightened. Evan, is there something? You never told me your last name, he interrupted softly. I froze. I never asked you for yours. He tilted his head, amused. You didn't need to. It's Miller. Evan Miller. I forced a smile. Okay. But your last name, he said, leaning in. I want to hear it from you. Before I could respond, a sound came from the back office. Mr. Larson pushing his chair back. Evan's eyes flickered toward the hallway. Someone's with you. Yes, I said firmly. There is. Something in his face shifted. A crack, a moment of frustration. Then he smiled, a thin, unsettling curve. Okay, I guess I'll wait. Wait for what? For closing. My blood ran cold. You should go, I said. We close in 10 minutes. He stepped back but didn't leave. He walked to his usual booth, sat down, and placed his backpack on the table. The storm outside intensified. Rain hammered the windows, lightning flashed. I walked to the office and whispered to Mr. Larson. He's not here for food. Something's off. Larson looked toward the window, then at me. Stay here. I'll talk to him. He stepped out. I stayed in the office doorway, peeking just enough to see. Hey, buddy, Larson said firmly. We're closed. Time to go. Evan didn't turn around. I'm waiting for her, he said, gesturing toward me without looking. I felt my pulse hammering in my ears. Larson stepped closer. Listen, you need to leave now. That's when Evan reached into his backpack. Larson's voice sharpened. Stop. Hands where I can see. Evan pulled something out, but it wasn't a weapon. It was a small glass bottle. He unscrewed the cap, and a strong chemical smell hit the air. Don't come closer, he warned. I don't want anyone else getting hurt. What is that? Larson demanded. Evan looked straight at me. Something to help her sleep. My chest tightened. No, I whispered. Larson reached for his phone. But Evan lunged. He smashed the bottle against the table. The liquid splashed, fumes rising instantly. Larson coughed, stumbling back. I screamed. Stop! Evan turned toward me. That's why I came tonight, he said softly. I couldn't wait anymore. I ran. My legs carried me even before my mind caught up. Call 911! Larson shouted behind me, choking. I sprinted through the kitchen, slipping on wet tiles, grabbing the phone near the drive-thru station. My fingers trembled as I dialed. Before the call connected, a hand slammed over my mouth. My own scream echoed inside me. Evan dragged me back, his grip iron tight. It's okay, he whispered in my ear. I'm not mad. You just made this harder than it had to be. I clawed at his arm. My nails dug in, but he didn't loosen his grip. Let go. You'll understand later, he whispered. I've been watching you for weeks. I know you're lonely. I know you don't have people who look out for you. But I will. I promise. Hot tears filled my eyes. No, I gasped. He shoved me toward the hallway behind the freezer. Please don't fight, he said almost pleadingly. I don't want to hurt you unless I have to. My back hit the metal freezer door. Lightning flashed through the small window. Thunder shook the building. Somewhere up front, I heard Larson coughing, stumbling, then silence. My breath caught. Evan reached into his pocket, pulling out a cloth. "Just breathe it in," he said gently. "Then we can leave." I felt myself shaking uncontrollably. "I don't want to go," I whispered. "You don't know what you want," he replied. He raised the cloth toward my face, and something in me snapped. I ducked and grabbed the first thing my hand touched, a frozen meat bag from the open freezer. With every ounce of fear inside me, I swung it. It hit him across the jaw. He staggered, dropping the cloth. I didn't wait. I bolted toward the back exit, slamming my hand on the push bar. The alarm shrieked. Bitter rain hit my face as I ran into the alley behind the store. I heard footsteps behind me. "Stop!" he screamed. I didn't look back. I fumbled for my keychain pepper spray, the one my aunt had given me as a joke when I got the job. I spun around just as he reached for me. I sprayed directly into his eyes. He howled, stumbling, clutching his face. Red and blue lights flashed suddenly at the end of the alley. The 911 call had gone through. Two officers jumped out, guns drawn. "Get on the ground!" Evan fell to his knees, screaming. I collapsed against the cold brick wall, sobbing, shaking so violently I could barely breathe. One officer rushed to me. "You okay? Stay with me. Stay with me." I could only nod weakly. Minutes later, I saw Larson being carried out on a stretcher, coughing but alive. And Evan was dragged into the back of a patrol car, his eyes burning, his voice cracking as he shouted my name over and over again. People think recovery is just time, that you get better slowly, little by little. That's a lie. Recovery is learning to sleep without checking your locks 6 times. Recovery is walking into a restaurant without scanning every face. Recovery is believing a stranger won't hurt you simply because they can. I moved away from Tacoma after the trial. Started over, new job, new routines. I met someone, fell in love. He knows pieces of the story, not everything, just enough. But some nights when I lie awake, I hear the storm again. I smell the freezer air. I feel his hand clamp around my mouth. And I remind myself, I lived. Not because I was brave, but because instinct took over. Because survival is louder than fear. And because somewhere deep inside that terrified 18-year-old girl, there was still a part of me that refused to be taken. When I drive past a Burger King now, I still look away. I still flinch at the smell of cooking oil. I still feel the echo of that night. But I survived, and that's enough. Story 3, I never thought I'd end up working at a Burger King. Not in a million years. If someone had told 16-year-old me that I'd be spending my 20s sweeping ketchup packets off tile floors and scraping dried cheese off heat lamps, I would have laughed it off. But life has a way of stripping you down. Sometimes slowly, sometimes all at once. For me, it was all at once. I grew up in a quiet suburb outside Columbus. My dad, Michael Hanley, was a physical therapist who owned his own clinic. My mom, Erin, ran a small candle business out of our basement that somehow made enough money to pay for family trips and Christmas splurges. I had 2 younger brothers who idolized me, a car I didn't have to make payments on, and college lined up with scholarships. Everything felt stable. Until Dad had a stroke. One minute he was grilling steaks in the backyard, laughing about the Browns losing again. The next minute he was lying face down in the grass, with one side of his body refusing to move. He survived, but the clinic didn't. Medical debt swallowed my parents whole. My college plans evaporated. I dropped out after the first semester to move back home and help. "You need a job, Liv," Mom kept saying. "I know," I'd tell her, pretending I wasn't falling apart inside. The only place hiring full-time with no degree required was the Burger King off exit 42 in Brookdale. A squat building with flickering lights, an always broken ice cream machine, and carpets that smelled like fryer grease even after deep cleans. It wasn't glamorous, but it was something. By month 4, I'd learned the rhythm of the place, the dinner rush, the late-night drunks, the drive-through regulars who ordered as if Burger King was a religion. The crew had finally warmed up to me too. There was Tyler, the night cook with tattoos of grim reapers but the gentlest smile. Mara, the shift lead who treated every employee like her kid. And Nate, the 20-year-old prankster who could make anyone laugh, even when the grill was burning. That Friday night in November started like any other. Cold air had crept into Ohio early, and every time the automatic doors opened, a burst of wind would chill the entire lobby. I was wiping down the front counter when Nate popped his head out of the kitchen. "Liv, you want to take counter or drive through tonight?" "Counter," I said. "At least I get to move around." He grinned. "Suit yourself. I'll enjoy sitting on my ass." I rolled my eyes and grabbed a fresh roll of receipt paper. I liked the counter. I liked seeing people. It made the job feel less like a factory line. At 11:17 p.m., everything changed. The door chimed. I looked up. A man walked in. Tall, maybe 6'2", thin, wearing an old, faded green coat that looked like it had been left in an attic for a decade. Jeans ripped at the knee, a baseball cap pulled low. His skin was pale, the kind of pale you get from staying indoors for too long. His lips were colorless, and when he looked up, his eyes were empty. Not angry, not tired, just vacant, like no one was home behind them. "Evening, sir," I said. "What can I get for you?" He stared at the menu for a long, uncomfortable moment. Then, "2 Whopper patties," he said quietly. "Okay," I replied, tapping the screen. "Do you want the full sandwich or—" "No bun," he interrupted. "No toppings, no cheese, no condiments, no grill." I paused. "So, you want the patties raw?" His eyes met mine. He nodded once. Not joking, not confused, just certain. My stomach tightened. "I'm really sorry, sir, but we can't serve raw meat." Health code. Before I finished, he reached into his jacket and pulled out a wad of cash, thick enough that I could see the edges of $100 bills. He peeled off a few and placed them on the counter. Crisp, perfectly flat. "How much do you need?" he asked. His voice was soft. Too soft. I swallowed. "Sir, I can't—" Mara appeared beside me, sensing something was off. "Everything okay here?" The man didn't look at her. "2 raw patties. I'll pay whatever you want." Mara inhaled sharply. "Sir, we legally cannot—" He slid another 100 across the counter. Then another. Then another. "Please," he whispered. There was no tremor in his voice. No desperation. Just a quiet insistence that made the hair on my arms rise. "Liv," Mara said, voice tight, "go finish wiping the lobby." Her tone wasn't normal. It was coded. "Get away from the counter." I stepped back, my heart thudding in my chest. I pretended to wipe the drink station while watching through the reflection of the napkin dispenser. Mara talked in low tones. The man stood perfectly still. Money glistened on the counter. Then Mara finally shook her head. "No, I'm sorry." The man's jaw twitched. Not angrily, more like disappointment. He took the money back slowly, 1 bill at a time, sliding them neatly into his coat. Then he turned and walked to the exit. But before he pushed the door open, he stopped and looked back at me. Just me. His stare felt like a hand closing around my throat. There wasn't hate in his eyes. There was something worse. Recognition. Like he had been looking for someone and had found them. The chime rang as he stepped out. I exhaled shakily. "Jesus," I whispered. "What the hell was that?" Nate peeked over from the kitchen. "Dude, he looked like a corpse." Mara rubbed her forehead. "People ask for weird stuff sometimes. Just forget it." But I couldn't forget, because when I looked outside through the big lobby window, the man wasn't leaving. He was sitting in his car, not turning on the engine, not checking his phone, not eating anything, just staring at me. "Can someone else do trash?" I muttered. "I'm not going out there." "Yeah, no problem," Tyler said, grabbing gloves. "I got it." But before he could step outside, I saw something that made my blood run cold. The man unwrapped something. The white Burger King wax wrapper, the one Mara had refused to fill. And inside was a raw patty. Red, wet, uncooked. My heart lurched. "Mara," I hissed, "you said no." She snapped her head toward the window. "I did!" But the proof was in his hands. He held the raw patty up, not to eat, but like someone smelling a flower. He closed his eyes, breathing in deeply. His lips moved, whispering, talking to it. My knees weakened. "What the hell?" Nate murmured behind me. Tyler froze at the back door. "I'm not going out there. No thanks." The man suddenly turned his head toward us. Sharp, violent, too fast. His eyes locked with mine through the glass. And he smiled. A thin, skin-stretched smile that looked painful. Then he lifted the patty and pressed it against his cheek, smearing the blood across his skin. I stumbled back. "No, no, no, nope." The man jerked forward, as if he were about to step out of the car, but instead he slammed his fist on the steering wheel, started the engine, and peeled out of the lot, tires screeching loud enough to set off a car alarm across the street. We all just stood there, breathing hard, like the air had been sucked out of the room. "What was that?" Nate whispered. Mara didn't answer at first. She just stared at the empty parking spot, pale as chalk. Then quietly, "I didn't give him anything." We all looked at her. "You think I'd risk my job for some freak?" she said, voice rising. I refused. I swear to God. "Then where did he get it?" I asked. There was silence. And then Tyler said what we were all thinking. "He brought it with him." My stomach twisted. That wrapper, it had been folded perfectly, but we never fold them. We stack. We don't fold. "What does that mean?" Nate asked, voice cracking. No one had an answer. We closed early that night. The store felt wrong, heavy, like something had seeped into the walls. When I clocked out, Mara walked me to my car. "Liv," she said softly, "if you see him again, call the police. Don't talk to him. Don't go near him. Just don't." I nodded, but my voice didn't work. I didn't sleep that night, not because of what he did with the meat, but because of the way he looked at me, like I was next. I quit the job 2 weeks later after he showed up again. Not inside, not in the drive-thru, just standing across the street, watching, no car, no bag, no movement, just watching. I told the police. They shrugged. "He hasn't threatened you," the officer said. "Call us if he approaches you." But he never approached. He just watched. Until one night he didn't. He was gone. Completely. No one saw him again. But every time I drive past that Burger King off exit 42, I get that same cold feeling in my gut. The feeling of being singled out, marked somehow. And every now and then, when I'm lying in bed in the dark, I swear I smell raw beef. And I swear I hear whispering. Not from outside, from inside my room, like someone is still searching for me, still waiting, still hungry. Story 4, I never imagined my life would bottom out at 26. Growing up in Harrison Falls, Indiana, I always thought things would go smoother. My dad worked maintenance at a steel mill, my mom was a school bus driver, and neither of them ever sugar-coated life. They taught me to work hard, keep my head down, and stay grateful. But when Dad died suddenly from a stroke, everything changed. Medical bills buried us. Mom moved in with her sister, and I dropped out of community college to work full-time. After bouncing between 2 lousy warehouse jobs that both shut down 6 months apart, I eventually found myself applying at the Burger King off State Road 42, the one wedged between a tire shop and an abandoned laundromat. Not exactly a dream, but it was steady, and the night shifts paid a little extra. My name's Evan, by the way, and this story still knots my stomach every time I think about it. On my first evening shift, the manager Derek gathered the team by the front counter right before closing. He was a tall guy in his late 30s, quiet, serious, and always tapping a pen against his palm when he was stressed. "All right, before we head out," he said, clearing his throat, "there's something everyone needs to know. We've been missing inventory, food mostly. At first I thought it was miscounting, but it's happening too often now." Everyone exchanged looks. Maria, who'd worked there the longest, groaned. "Again, we went through this 3 years ago." I looked at her. "Someone stealing food?" She shrugged. "Supposedly." Derek rubbed his eyes. "Just stay sharp. Lock everything. Check storage. Till we figure out what's going on." I figured it was just someone being careless. But the next morning, Derek called me an hour before my shift. "Evan, did you notice anything last night? Anything off?" "No." "Why?" "We're missing a full sleeve of patties, 24 count." That's when I started to feel that first tiny tug of dread. Over the next week, the missing food kept happening. Always small amounts, always at night, no money stolen, no signs of break-ins. It made no sense. One night while scrubbing the fryer baskets, I said, "This is weird, right? Someone would have to break in, take just food, and leave without touching anything else." Maria snorted. "Or something is taking it." I paused. "Something?" She leaned closer, lowering her voice dramatically. "People said this building had issues years ago, before it became a Burger King. Homeless squatters, break-ins, weird noises. Guy found living in the attic space above the kitchen." I blinked. "You're joking." Her expression remained dead serious. "Do I look like I'm joking?" I didn't know whether to laugh or worry, but either way, it stuck with me. Derek eventually installed new cameras, inside and outside. He even put extra locks on the back door. He checked our bags before we left. Everyone hated it, but none of us blamed him. Still, the food kept disappearing. One night I walked past the walk-in freezer and felt something strange. Air colder than usual pushed out from under the door, like someone was standing behind it. I opened it. Nothing. Just boxes, shelves, and frost. But for the first time, I felt like I wasn't alone. After another week of missing inventory, Derek gathered us again. "We're staying overnight," he said bluntly. "We lock the doors, kill the lights, and wait. If someone's slipping in, we're catching them." We all exchanged excited, nervous looks. It felt stupid, but also kind of fun. We stayed from midnight to 3 a.m. Nothing. But then Maria said something that would change everything. "You know, last time we had this problem, the old manager left food out on purpose. Like an offering." She laughed. "And weirdly, the stealing stopped." Derek raised an eyebrow. "You're messing with me." "Try it," she challenged. "Worst case, we lose one meal." Derek sighed long and hard. "Fine, one try." So we made a fresh Whopper, fries, and a chocolate shake, and left it on the prep counter before locking up. Next morning, gone. Every scrap. And for the first time in weeks, nothing else went missing. But instead of relief, I felt sick. Because if someone was coming inside without breaking anything, without triggering alarms, without showing up on cameras, where were they coming from? I told myself to forget it. Just take the paycheck and leave it alone. But I couldn't. The mystery dug at me. Who was eating the food? Where were they hiding? Why no camera caught them? So one night, I did something reckless. While Maria prepared the offering, I placed my old phone behind a stack of napkins near the prep counter. I started recording before we closed. I didn't tell anyone. The next morning, I came in early. My heart hammered as I grabbed my phone, went into the break room, and hit play. At first, nothing. Then at 2:13 a.m., the camera shook slightly like the counter rattled. Something moved at the bottom of the frame. A hand, thin, bony, filthy. Fingernails cracked and blackened. It gripped the floor tiles like someone pulling themselves forward. Then another hand, then an arm, a shoulder, then a man. A man dragging himself out from behind the walk-in freezer. I felt my entire body go cold. He wasn't just thin, he was skeletal. His hair hung in greasy strands. His face was sunken, cheekbones jutting out. Lips cracked, eyes wild and hollow. He crawled toward the food and tore into it like an animal. Not eating, devouring, shoving the burger into his mouth so fast pieces flew across the counter. He drank the shake in 3 seconds. Then he crawled back behind the freezer and vanished. I stopped the video. My hands shook violently. There was no door behind the freezer, no crawl space, just a wall. I found Derek in his office. "You need to see this," I said, my voice cracking. He looked skeptical until he watched the video. His jaw dropped. "No, no way, where the hell is he coming from?" "I don't know, but we have to check it out." Derek swallowed hard, then nodded. "We're staying tonight, just us." After closing, we turned off the lights and hid behind the prep counter. The only sound was the hum of the freezer and our own breathing. At 1:47 a.m., it began, a faint scraping behind the walk-in. Derek's hand tightened around the flashlight. The scraping grew louder, metal against metal. Then the freezer shifted slightly. I'm going to be sick, Derek whispered. Slowly, horrifyingly, the freezer edged forward half an inch. Behind it, something dark moved. A hand emerged, fingers first, then an arm, then the man. He crawled out again. Same filthy clothes, same sunken face, same desperate hunger. He sniffed the air, spotted the food we'd left on the counter. He lunged for it, devouring it with frantic, shaking hands. Then he froze. He turned his head toward us, eyes black, hollow, wild. He had heard us breathing. I stopped breathing entirely. He stared, then backed away slowly, disappearing behind the freezer. Derek whispered, "What the hell is behind there?" When the man was gone, we moved the freezer aside together. Behind it was something we never imagined. A narrow opening cut directly into the wall, jagged, hand-chiseled, barely wide enough for someone to squeeze through. We called the police immediately. They arrived within 10 minutes and forced the freezer back farther, widening the gap. What they found on the other side will haunt me forever. Behind that wall was an old maintenance corridor from the original building layout. Long abandoned, undocumented in the new floor plans, sealed off decades ago. Except someone had broken it open. Inside, the corridor ran for about 15 feet before opening into a small room. Dark, damp, and filled with trash, blankets, empty cans, old wrappers, and a rusted metal pot. Someone had been living there. But that wasn't the worst part. There were chains bolted to the wall. Fresh ones, recently broken. Police officers looked at each other uneasily. "This wasn't just someone hiding," one said quietly. "This was someone being kept." The man we saw, the man eating our food, had escaped from those chains. He wasn't a thief. He was a prisoner, a victim. Someone had kept him hidden behind the walls of a functioning Burger King, and none of us knew. The police eventually found 2 other hidden holding spaces connected deeper in the walls, places accessible only through old maintenance shafts no one remembered. They also discovered canned food, rope, and tools. Whoever had imprisoned those people had used the abandoned corridor like a maze. They'd been using the Burger King walls to hide. The trafficking ring responsible was later uncovered in an abandoned farm 2 towns over. 4 victims were rescued in total, including the man we saw. He was barely alive. I never saw him again, but Derek said the police told him the man had been missing for nearly 9 months. 9 months behind our walls. 9 months scraping for food. 9 months no one helped because no one knew he was there. After everything, I quit. Couldn't stay another minute in that building. Derek quit 3 days later. Burger King closed for renovations shortly after and never reopened. Franchise sold, sign taken down, windows papered over. Now when I drive past any fast food place, I can't help but slow down and stare at the walls. Because the truth is, you never really know what's behind them, or who. Sometimes I still hear that scraping sound in my dreams, the soft, desperate sound of someone trying to claw their way into the light. And every time it makes me wonder, how many walls in this world hide a human being, begging to be found? Story 5. I never thought I'd still be haunted by the smell of frying oil. Even now, years later, if I even walk past a fast food place, my throat tightens and my pulse starts racing. But if I'm going to tell this, I need to start from the beginning, before everything went wrong, before I realized what kind of monster can hide behind a polo shirt and name badge. My name's Evan Carter, and in 2020 I was working the closing shift at a Burger King in Red Mesa, Arizona. I was 22 back then, juggling night classes in automotive repair while trying to pay rent on a cheap studio apartment above a laundromat. Working at BK wasn't my dream or anything, but it was steady, predictable, safe, or so I thought. Most nights our store was dead after 9 p.m. Red Mesa wasn't the kind of town where people stayed out late. The desert air turned cold fast and the wind carried dust across the parking lot like tiny ghosts. By 10 p.m., we were usually just cleaning fry baskets, wiping down counters, and joking around to stay awake. That was the year Maya Ruiz got hired. She was quiet at first, kept her hair in a messy bun, always showed up early, and talked with this soft voice that made you lean in to hear her. She had these shy smiles that almost never reached her eyes. We bonded fast. Same age, same classes, same shitty paychecks. and we were the only two who volunteered for late shifts, mostly to avoid our chaotic daytime manager. Which brings me to Frank Dorsey, our night manager. Frank was in his mid-40s, built like he could snap a broom handle in half without trying. Bald head, heavy boots, and a stare that lasted too long, like he was memorizing everything about you. He wasn't warm, but he wasn't mean either. Just stern. He had this habit of double-checking all the locks himself, especially the door to the back storage area near the walk-in freezer. "No one goes in there unless I say so," he'd say. We all thought it was just corporate paranoia. Every manager had their quirks, but Frank's felt different. One Thursday in late October, Maya and I were closing together. The store was quiet except for the buzz of the fluorescent lights and the fryer draining its oil. "Hey, Evan," Maya said, pushing a mop. "Do you ever feel like someone's watching from the freezer hallway?" I laughed it off. "You're just tired. Or cold. That freezer's creepy as hell." "No," she insisted, gripping the mop tighter. "I heard footsteps last night. Heavy ones." I frowned. "Was Frank still here?" She shook her head. "He clocked out early. Said he had to finish paperwork at home." Something about that didn't sit right, but I didn't want to scare her. Then we both heard it. Thud. A loud, low sound, like something heavy hitting metal, coming from the storage hallway. Maya froze. "Evan, that wasn't the ice machine." We stepped closer, and the motion sensor light flickered overhead. "Frank," I called out, "you still here?" Silence. Just our breathing and a faint rattling noise behind the freezer door, as if someone was shifting inside. I placed a hand on Maya's shoulder. "Let's finish and go. Probably pipes contracting or something." But she didn't look convinced. When our shift ended, we rushed out faster than usual. She lingered by her car, shivering even though the night wasn't that cold. "Evan, please tell me you heard that," she whispered. I nodded. I did. And the worst part? I didn't think it was the pipes. I woke to messages blowing up my phone. News alerts, missed calls from coworkers, even a voicemail from the Red Mesa PD. Something had happened at work. When I drove up, police lights flashed across the building. Yellow tape sealed the doors. A small crowd gathered, whispering, exchanging rumors. Then I saw her, Maya, lying by the dumpster behind the building, EMTs covering her body with a sheet, a stain of dried blood on the pavement nearby. My knees nearly gave out. A cop noticed me staring and approached. "You Evan Carter?" I nodded. "We need you to come with us." At the station, Detective Laura Hensley sat across from me, arms crossed. "Evan, we know you and Maya worked together last night. We know she walked out with you." She leaned forward. "She was found at 5 a.m. No signs of robbery, no sexual assault, just blunt force trauma. Whoever killed her meant to." My throat closed up. "Did anything unusual happen last night?" she asked. I hesitated, then forced the words out. "There was a noise in the back hallway, near the freezer." "Could it have come from outside?" she pressed. "No, it came from inside." She wrote something down. "Your manager, Frank Dorsey, did he act strange yesterday?" I swallowed. "He left early." Hensley looked concerned. "Frank Dorsey didn't go home last night." My heart dropped. "We found his car abandoned behind the hardware store downtown," she continued. "But Frank is nowhere." They let me go after a few hours, but told me not to leave Red Mesa. I went home and sat in silence, replaying everything. Maya's smile, her fear, that sound. I couldn't shake one thought. Something was in that hallway with us that night. By midnight, I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed a flashlight and drove to the Burger King. Police tape still hung across the entrance, but I slipped under it. The air inside was cold, heavy with the smell of bleach. I walked straight to the back hallway. The freezer hummed. The overhead light flickered. Then I noticed something I'd never seen before. A narrow metal door partially hidden behind stacked soda boxes. "What the hell?" I whispered. It wasn't on any floor plan. I'd cleaned this area dozens of times. I pushed the boxes aside and pressed my ear to the door. Something moved inside. A faint scrape, a shuffle, a breath. My palms went sweaty. Then footsteps echoed down the main hallway. Slow, heavy, deliberate. I killed my flashlight and ducked behind a shelf of condiments. The footsteps got closer. Then a voice, raspy, low, filled the hallway. "You shouldn't have come back, Evan." My heart stopped. Frank. He stepped into the dim light, his Burger King jacket stained, his eyes sunken like he hadn't slept in days. "Frank," I whispered, "what happened? Where have you been?" His lips curled into a twisted half-smile. "Doing what I've always done," he said, "protecting this place." My pulse hammered. "What did you do to Maya?" His eyes glowed with something I didn't understand. "She saw him," he said simply. "Who?" Frank pointed at the hidden door. "The boy behind the freezer." My stomach twisted. "Frank, what's behind that door?" His voice softened, almost reverent. "A mistake, a curse, a kid I tried to help once. But he never left this place." He stepped closer, fingers twitching. "You and Maya weren't supposed to notice." I backed away slowly. "Frank, you're scaring me. Tell me what you mean." He sighed. "When I first moved to Red Mesa," he said, "there was a boy who kept breaking in at night. Skinny kid, maybe 13. They called him Joshua Pike. Ran away from an abusive home. I tried to feed him, offered him a job sweeping floors. But one night," he stopped, swallowing hard. "He crawled into the old freezer to sleep. I didn't know. I locked it. He froze before morning." A sickening wave washed over me. Frank's voice cracked. "After that, he never really left." His eyes flicked to the hidden door. "He lives in there now, and he doesn't like when people disturb him." A chill ran through my entire body. "Frank, that's not possible." He smiled sadly. "Then why do you hear him walking?" Suddenly, bang! The hidden door shook violently. Frank didn't flinch. "He's awake." I pressed 911 on my phone inside my pocket, praying the call went through. Frank raised a crowbar. "He wants you, Evan. You should have stayed away." That's when the metal door slowly creaked open. A pale hand slid out. Small, child-sized, fingers long and stiff like they'd been frozen for decades. I bolted. Frank lunged, grabbing my arm. "You're staying!" I slammed my elbow into his ribs and ran for the lobby. The child's voice echoed behind me, high-pitched, hollow. "Cold, so cold." My legs nearly gave out from terror. Frank chased me, yelling, "You can't help him! You can't! He'll take you too!" Red and blue lights flashed across the windows. Police burst inside seconds later. Frank dropped the crowbar and screamed, "Don't open that door! Don't let him out!" They tackled him to the ground, but the metal door slowly closed by itself. And I swear on my life, a small face appeared in the crack before it shut. Blue lips, frost around the eyes, and a stare that pierced through me like ice. I spent 2 days in the hospital, mild hypothermia from the freezer hallway apparently, though I still don't understand how. Detective Hensley came to see me. "Evan," she said, "we searched the back room thoroughly. There's no second door, no hidden compartment, nothing." My blood ran cold. "No," I whispered. "I saw it. Frank saw it. There was a boy." "Frank is being held for Maya's murder," she said gently. "But he's not talking. He keeps repeating one thing over and over." I swallowed. "What?" Her face tightened. "He keeps saying, 'Don't let him out.'" I felt the hospital room drop in temperature. The lights flickered once, then steadied. Detective Hensley touched my shoulder. "We're closing the Burger King permanently. Too much trauma associated with it." I nodded, trying to breathe normally. But that night, as I lay there trying to sleep, I heard it, a soft scraping, like tiny nails dragging along metal, coming from the vent above my bed. Then a whisper, "Cold, so cold." I don't go near fast food places anymore, especially not Burger King, because I know what I saw, I know what followed me, and I know that whatever is trapped behind that freezer door isn't finished yet. Story 6, I never thought a minimum wage job would end up being the reason I still sleep with my bedroom door locked at 19 years old. But if I'm going to explain what happened, I should start from before everything went sideways, back when things still felt normal and life was simple. I grew up in Kettlebrook, Illinois, a quiet, flat town surrounded by cornfields and a big sky that looked different depending on the season. Summers were humid and sticky. Winters felt like punishment. My parents divorced when I was 12, and ever since then I'd been trying to shoulder more responsibility than I needed to. Money was tight, my mom worked double shifts at the clinic, and getting a job felt less like choice and more like necessity. So when I turned 16, I applied at the Burger King off County Route 14, right next to the old Tractor Supply store. The building wasn't anything special. Yellow tiles, buzzing lights, a fryer that hissed like it was alive. But it was somewhere I could earn gas money for my rusty Honda and pay for my school stuff without feeling guilty. My manager, Darren, was 38 and always smelled faintly like burnt coffee. He never lost his temper, even when customers acted like the world was ending because we were out of spicy nuggets. He liked me because I showed up on time and didn't screw around. "You're solid, Isaac," he used to say. "Reliable. Wish the others were like you." And he wasn't wrong. Most of the staff came and went. The only one who stuck around longer than a month was Ava, a quiet girl with a sarcastic streak who worked part-time while saving for community college. She was 2 years older than me, had bright hazel eyes, and a habit of tapping her fingers whenever she was thinking. I liked her more than I'd ever admit out loud. When she transferred from another Burger King 2 towns over, Darren asked me to train her. "I'm trusting you," he joked. "Don't scare this one away." But Ava didn't scare easily. She picked up the register in one night, learned the prep station faster than I did, and made customers laugh without trying. Working with her made the shift fly by. Sometimes when business was slow, we'd talk about music, horror movies, or how dead Kettlebrook felt after 8 p.m. "You ever feel like this town is hiding something?" she asked once. I laughed. "The only thing Kettlebrook is hiding is the fact that the high school football team hasn't won a game in 2 years. "Exactly," she said with a smirk. "A tragedy." For a while, life felt steady, predictable in a good way, but predictable doesn't last long. Not there. Not with the people we had coming in and out. There was one guy, Eli Carter, who used to work there. Someone I'd only seen twice before Darren fired him. He was 21, quick-tempered, and always seemed just a bit off. There were rumors he'd been caught stealing from the register. Others said he was high half the time. He never talked much, but the day Darren let him go, he punched the dumpster outside so hard he broke a knuckle. "He'll calm down," Darren said after. "Just give it time." But I wasn't so sure, and I was right not to be. Everything started to go wrong the night Darren brought out the King mascot costume. I'd only seen it once before, shoved in a plastic bin in the back office, the big smiling mask frozen in a weird, unsettling grin. The kind of grin that looked friendly from a distance but became horrifying the closer you got. Corporate wanted photos for social media, community engagement, whatever that meant. So they told Darren someone needed to wear the costume outside for an hour or two. And of course, Darren said he'd do it. "Can't ask you kids to," he said as he adjusted the heavy robe. "Plus, we don't want to get a lawsuit when one of y'all passes out from heat exhaustion." Ava laughed. "You look majestic." "You look like you're about to haunt someone," I added. "Perfect," Darren said. "It's spooky season anyway." It was mid-October. Leaves were falling, the air was cold, and nights lasted longer. Business slowed after 9 p.m., giving us time to joke, clean, and sometimes just breathe. That night, though, things felt wrong. Even before the chaos, before the screaming, before the blood. Around 9:40 p.m., Ava frowned and looked toward the window. "He's been out there for a long time," she said. I glanced out too. The mascot stood near the edge of the parking lot beside the dim streetlight, robe billowing slightly even though there wasn't a breeze. He wasn't waving anymore, just standing perfectly still, facing the road. "Maybe Darren's on his phone," I said, though something about the stillness made my stomach twist. "Should we check?" she asked. "Nah, he'd come in if something was wrong." We tried to go back to sweeping and wiping down tables, but I kept glancing outside. The king hadn't moved an inch. Not an inch. By 10 p.m., Ava finally said what I'd been thinking. "Isaac, that doesn't look like Darren." The figure was taller, straighter, stiffer. Before I could reply, the front door creaked open. I turned. The king stepped inside, slowly, deliberately. The robe dragged. The plastic mask reflected the fluorescent lights in a way that made the eyes look hollow. "Darren," I called, forcing a laugh. "Dude, you scared?" The figure didn't respond, didn't wave, didn't move except for tilting his head slightly, like he was studying us. Ava whispered, "Take off the mask. You're freaking me out." Still nothing. I stepped closer, and that's when I saw it. His hands. They were trembling and stained dark. Not ketchup. Something thicker. "Darren!" My voice cracked. "Say something." And then finally he did. A low voice rasped from the inside of the mask. "Lock your doors better." Not Darren's voice. Not even close. Ava gasped. I stumbled back. He stepped forward. That broke everything. "Isaac, back!" Ava yelled, grabbing my shirt and pulling me behind the counter. The king lunged. We ran toward the kitchen, slipping on spilled soda and knocking over a stack of trays. I pushed Ava into the manager's office and slammed the door shut behind us. The lock clicked, but my hands wouldn't stop shaking. Ava's voice was trembling. "Call the cops. Call them now." I pulled out my phone. No service. Not even one bar. "You've got to be kidding me," I whispered, shaking the phone like that would magically fix it. Ava tried the office landline. Dead. Outside, the footsteps grew louder, slow, dragging, purposeful. Then came the first slam, a heavy boot against the door. Ava flinched with every hit. "Please stop," she whispered through tears. "Please." I tried to stay calm. "He can't get through that door. It's solid." Another slam, harder, then a voice, raw, furious. "You two cost me everything." Ava looked at me, confusion mixing with terror. "Who is that?" But I already knew. Eli. Eli Carter. The one Darren fired. The one who punched the dumpster. The one who glared at me the week he got let go because I'd been promoted to closing shift while he was on his way out. He blamed us, or at least Darren. Maybe he blamed everyone. The slamming stopped. For 30 long seconds, nothing moved. Then, silence. Cold. Suffocating. "Is he gone?" Ava whispered. "I don't know." I leaned toward the door, listening. Nothing. I opened it just an inch. The dining room sat empty, except for the mascot's crown lying on the floor. "Isaac, don't," Ava begged. "We need to get out," I whispered. "Right now." She nodded, wiping her face. We moved slowly from behind the counter, stepping around spilled drinks and scattered wrappers. The front door was still closed. The place looked untouched, just empty, too empty. "Run," I said. We headed for the back exit, almost there. A shape burst out from behind the soda machine. The king rushed us, knife flashing under the fluorescent lights. Ava screamed. He swiped at me, the blade grazing my shoulder. Pain shot down my arm. I swung the mop handle I'd grabbed from the office, smashing it into his ribs. He stumbled but grabbed me by the hoodie and pulled me down. The mask cracked slightly against the floor, revealing part of a jawline smeared with blood. "You took my job," he snarled. "You took what was mine." An insane, furious strength radiated off him. Ava grabbed the nearest thing, a metal napkin dispenser, and slammed it into his head. The crack echoed through the whole dining area. Eli fell sideways, dazed. "Run, Isaac!" Ava screamed. We bolted through the back door, sprinting barefoot across the pavement toward the street. Cold night air stung my lungs. I didn't stop. Neither did she. We ran straight to the Kettlebrook Police Department, 2 blocks away. Officers swarmed the Burger King 10 minutes later. They found Eli in the dining room, half conscious, bleeding from the head, the king mask beside him, the knife still in his hand. "Darren?" He'd left early. "Flu symptoms," he said. He never saw Eli steal the costume from the storage room. The blood on Eli's hands belonged to a stray dog he'd apparently attacked behind the dumpsters in some twisted delusion before breaking inside. He was high, paranoid, and completely unhinged. Burger King corporate shut the store down for almost a month. Ava quit 2 days later. She couldn't handle stepping foot back inside that building. I stayed another 3 weeks before finally putting in my notice. Every night, the shadows near the soda machine made my heart race. Every time someone walked in wearing a hoodie, my palms went cold. Life went back to normal for most people. Kettlebrook was good at forgetting ugly things, but not me. Because sometimes when I drive past that Burger King on Route 14 late at night, I swear I still see that costume, standing just outside the glow of the streetlights, motionless, watching, waiting.